I think usually we would start off by saying, why focus on the topic? Why talk about collaborative planning? What's the challenge? What are the pain points? But I know that many of you on the line, as part of the FP&A trends community, are living and working this, every single day. So the need to proactively respond to changes in the forecast and the plan, provide insights, even as the business becomes more and more complex. I think for a lot of us, the past 3 months especially have revealed that need for organizations to be more agile, collaborate virtually across regions, across functions, and respond to any changes in real time. So we're very fortunate to have Victor here with us today, who recognized that need for collaboration and agility, a few years ago. He's made tremendous impact at the McDonald's division of the Coca-Cola Company. So we're all very fortunate to be able to hear that story on today's webinar. So Victor, let's start at the beginning of your journey.
Okay.
When you realized there was a need to transform the way that planning happened.
I've been with the Coca-Cola Company for now 25 and a half years, and I joined this particular team in December of 2018. And we'll talk a little bit more about the journey a little later, but I'll land here first. In April of 2019, looking at the left side of this slide, our CEO had a conversation with the global Coca-Cola family, and it was after our Q1 results. And he talked about the growth stages of the Coca-Cola Company. And the first growth stage was one product, that 8-ounce glass in one country. And then we moved to growth stage 2 with that same 8-ounce glass in multiple countries. That was near or around World War II. Growth stage 3, and this is a quote from James Quincy, is where many companies fail. And that's when you have, in the case of the Coca-Cola Company, we have 500 plus brands, over 200 markets. And that was a great aha moment for me. And that was a few months into the beginning of our journey. And the thing I want to focus on here is when you're going through change and trying to really get the organization to rally behind something so important as collaborative planning, there has to be a strong, compelling reason why. And I thought that the CEO's conversation to our organization was a big rallying cry with regards to why we really need to have a networked organization with the ability to connect with one another, to import and export ideas and or brands. And on the right side of this page, another key defining moment or aha moment for me, it was near the beginning of the year, and one of our enterprise IT leads was having a conversation, Jan, with us about what is digital transformation for the Coca-Cola Company. And in this conversation, she spoke about the fact that it is 3 things. It is externally to grow with our consumers. You can think of things like social engagement or physical to e-commerce. It is externally to grow with customers. Who among us have not used Amazon this last 3 months? Well, I was with an organization, with our bottling organization about a decade ago, a little more than a decade ago, when we first hosted a Skunkworks team talking about how to sell our products on Amazon site. And then last but not least, internally to be agile, productive, and engaging. And I've explained to my finance team that this is where enabling functions sit, such as finance. And this is where we were going to make a big difference, but it was in support of those first 2. So based on the 2 things you see on this slide, I really felt that I had a strong foundation. Now, again, the journey had begun, but like many journeys, you're still searching for, am I headed in the right direction? Do I have the great foundation that I need to really propel? And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go ahead.
Absolutely. And coming from a management consulting background, the word transformation certainly gets used quite a bit, especially in these large and complex organizations. But over time, as that growth has happened, you have more and more complex processes that have changed. So certainly, as you said, a journey, not a thing that just happens overnight, right? A rapid change effort. I think that
Exactly.
a lot of those on the line have probably embarked on such a journey or thought about it and have looked back and realized there were some success factors that could have helped right up front. I know you had a few of those.
I'll just go through each of these particular items that you see here with a little bit more focus on allies, which you might wonder what that one is. But for us, choices. So again, I'll speak a bit about the organizational structure of my team. We support the McDonald's division. McDonald's and Coca-Cola operate together in 105 markets, which is about half the countries in which Coca-Cola sells its products. And about half of our business is based in the US. So we had to make choices at the very beginning with regards to where we were going to focus. And it was clear that we had some challenges with having an effective planning process for the markets outside the US. One, many of those markets are developing, but then just the sheer number of people who have inputs with regards to what we do. Over 70 finance people worldwide, over 100 100 salespeople worldwide. And so the focus around where to choose to put our effort was on primarily the international business initially, while bringing along the rest of the people on the journey with regards to the work we're going to do. Allies. This one is one where I could not have predicted, Jan, that this was going to be so important. And as many people know, as most of you know, Coca-Cola is quite a large organization, and the layers of manual work have been taking place for a generation. I started my finance career 30 years ago, and Coke, as I said earlier, 25 years ago, and Excel was the mantra. So a few allies within the organization who saw and believed there was a better way. We've been a great support system to one another and able to kind of adapt or adopt some of the practices and ideas from each other, all around how we bring to life this ability to collaboratively plan. With regards to scope, ferociously guarding the scope. Again, 38% of the people thought that that was important. And as we'll see in a couple of slides, we'll talk about the journey and the need to be able to actually produce some output within a short period of time is so much connected to scope. And last but not least, talent. Talent relates to the fact that if the people that are going to bring this to life don't see what's in it for them, that they're going to learn new skills that are valuable, that they're going to be working with some of our partners or consultants or people across the business, such as the allies that are going to help us to bring this to life. They need to be able to see that they're going to get something out of this from a talent perspective, or upskilling themselves and becoming more valuable. So the final point I'll make on this is with regards to the finance transformation. I've said many times to my team, it obviously should impact our division, the McDonald's division, and our ability to plan more effectively and collaborate across the enterprise. It should definitely impact the Coca-Cola Company. And people would say, what do you mean Coca-Cola Company? We're in 105 markets. What we do will get seen. And it absolutely should affect you as an individual.
Yeah, I think that what's in it for me point is critical to ensure that adoption and ensure that you have allies along the way. When I think about bringing in the allies as well, another point comes to mind, which is getting that full picture of what you're trying to solve.
Mm-hmm.
So often, when we work in silos, our small view of the world might not give you that full picture of an end-to-end process and the connection points. And
Right.
as you start to engage other functions and have those conversations, you both walk away more informed about what the true scope of the work and the business looks like.
Exactly.
And Larissa, I think if we advance to the next slide, I know Victor, you had some conversations with IT, right, and some of the business partners over there as you started to paint that picture of what are we really solving for here.
Exactly. And so I'll unpack this slide here because I've spent a good amount of time talking to multiple individuals about this. And on that last slide, I talked about allies. And one of my allies on this journey was a guy that worked with Deloitte initially and then came to Coca-Cola. And his responsibility was to build what we refer to as our financial data warehouse. So if you look at the bottom of this slide, many of the financial planning and analysis professionals on this call will recognize transaction systems of record like Salesforce and ERP systems like SAP for transactions. The next layer, data integration, that is a very important layer where many corporations have now put all of their data in the cloud. And I'm going to skip that middle part because that's the part I want to really emphasize the most. At the top of this, you see consolidation and reporting, and HFM stands for Hyperion Financial Management, BPC, Business Planning Consolidation. And you also have various other consolidation tools. And on top of that stack, you have business intelligence tools like Tableau and MicroStrategy and Power BI, where you do dashboards and charts. What I was trying to put my hands on is what I hope that many people on this call can relate to is this messy middle. For a generation, we've accepted that uploading from SAP or downloading from SAP, uploading into Hyperion to consolidate, and everything else gets done in Excel. Forecasts, 3-year plans, ad hoc analysis, and there are multiple allies within our company that felt we could do better, and I became one of them. And this was a chart, Jan, where I began to really unpack how this problem is prevalent within the Coca-Cola system. And in our case, we had a collaborative planning tool that we wanted to implement. And this was not my original idea. This was done by one of my allies in a tool that allowed us to build our long-range plan in a connected way without email and Excel spreadsheets. So when I came to this team, it was again, 105 markets, all emailing spreadsheets about plans. And I thought this is a great place to adopt this particular collaborative planning tool.
So I love this concept of the messy middle, and I think that for a lot of those on the call here today, you may not have heard the term, but you likely recognize the problem here that's laid out. And I know up front we said, we don't need to unpack why we're talking about collaborative planning today or what the challenge is, but I do also know that I've certainly met some leaders who haven't recognized this or haven't necessarily understood the full magnitude of it.
Right.
Just the sheer amount of time that's required to piece data together and answer those what if questions, not a push of a button or just a single visualization dashboard or a data lake.
Exactly. That is a challenge that I think many organizations face with the fancy Tableau and Power BI dashboards, the belief that you can just attach that to a data lake and have the information. But the reality is it's only going to be a static representation of whatever you've built in that dashboard, but the ability to dynamically have people at the edge of your enterprise, whether it's your sales team in the field or even a partner. One of our teams in Coke North America actually built a forecasting tool for our parts warehouse that provides equipment for our fountain equipment, and their top 20 suppliers actually collaborate with them in the cloud on the demand signal for providing more parts. There's literally a better way than emailing Excel spreadsheets. That is a very highly accepted practice today.
Exactly. I was just thinking of that, of the back and forth of emailing spreadsheets and then trying to combine, the way that you look at customers is the same way that we categorize our customers. It's incredibly time consuming.
This is the part where we hopefully can get into a little bit of the nuance of this journey that we're talking about on this call, because there's no magic potion necessarily, because it is multiple things that has to happen. But I'll start here on the left, in the lower left, in December 2018. And mind you, I began this particular role that I'm in October. I had just come from Canada, where I had been the CFO of a business unit there. And I had a conversation with the person who hired me in the role, the business unit or division CEO, and he said that he wanted to have the division be able to function more like a BU. And that meant faster results from our international business and the ability to see it down to an operating income level quickly. I had a meeting with our finance lead for our largest operating unit, which is the US. And he said, we want to modernize our systems. And so I must admit, I had that hypothesis that these were going to be things I'd find. And I really focus here because you see in Q1 2019, we had already arrived at a point where we were able to consolidate our results of our 105 markets from local currency to USD and a global volume analysis tool written by algorithm, just math, because there was time that was spent there that was not productive time. And the point I want to make here is, as much as I understood that these might be things I find, I was able to make sure that I checked in with the right people who could help support the journey. And then by July of 2019, we had more focus on accurate analytics. So our international president for the McDonald's division could go to an ad hoc meeting on the fly with someone in North Latin America and ask for some historical trends and be able to get it. And we knew all that was connected to a data hub. And so I'm going to say right now, the tool that we used is a collaborative planning tool and a plan, but I don't want to over-index on that in and of itself, because as I've told the CEO of Anaplan, if someone builds a better mousetrap, I'll go to it. Right now, that was the mousetrap that we led with, and it's really paying great dividends. And it got to the point where now our leadership team began asking us, hey, when can we see some of the tools that you've built in Anaplan? And that speaks to adoption, because everything we focused on, Jan, was really on not just building fancy new finance tools, but it was totally focused on trying to achieve an objective that was going to make our business unit operate more effectively and our frontline salespeople see the benefit.
Absolutely. And I think, just looking at the milestones that happened after the first quarter of 2019, it's almost on a monthly basis. So that upfront speed to value certainly built momentum. When did you first start having, other functions start to take notice and start to get questions about how do we get involved? I know you've mentioned adoption.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would say probably by the time we were approaching what would have been our 2020 business planning process, we started hearing more, because all of a sudden we had gotten to the point in August and September where we could have our first live customer level planning and scenario builder, and the ability to understand the drivers and drains of every market across 105 markets, all centered on a common data hub where our product descriptions, our monthly performance, which was going to provide the baseline for our 2020 business plan, the rates on revenue, on cost of goods sold, no reproduction of all that. All that was purpose built back in Q1 2019. And we were able to then allow our salespeople to then say, hey, if you go to this tool here in the cloud versus this Excel spreadsheet, and of course, we were able to build the tool that they would see, and it would look much like they would have seen in Excel, only it was in the cloud and able to pull from the tools that we've already built. And people started seeing the momentum. And we literally trained people on the fly just before plans were needed to be submitted. And by November, our CEO was able to present to the company CEO a business plan for 2020, representing all 105 of our markets, which is the first time ever for the McDonald's division to be able to do that, because it takes so long generally in the past to collect all those spreadsheets.
Right. And that efficiency is something that speak with a lot of finance organizations about when it comes to transforming, being able to do things faster is in a lot of ways the first step, that foundational element.
Exactly.
And I know that I see in the first quarter of this year a milestone around deeper customer insights, which once you've built that foundational efficiency,
Yes.
you free up time and you have the ability then to tackle what if questions or insights that previously were too manual, too time consuming to do.
That's
So it'd
correct.
be interesting to hear a little bit about what insights your team has uncovered now that you have these capabilities.
So one very simple one, our operations vice president asked us, again, back to the earlier conversation about adoption, hey, is it possible for us to connect the quality index scores? Because we have people that go out to most of our customers' outlets and look at the quality of the equipment, the quality of the pour of the product, and these have in the past been collected in Excel spreadsheets and looked at to see what the scores are on a scale of 0 to 100. Clearly we're generally in the 90s or better, but he said, can you put this in the collaborative planning tool that you built, because I would like to be able to join that with how the actual business performance looks. We were able to have one of our key people who is adept on this tool to build that, and within 1 month he had that tool, and the association of quality and performance in our business is very much connected. Again, the theme here about connected planning. And when you think about the messy middle that we talked about, the reason why it's so messy for so many people is that functions have traditionally been focused on point solutions fit for purpose for their function. And the reality is, finance can actually lead the enterprise to think about how finance as a hub can connect to those other fit for purpose tools in a connected way, such that you can leverage all of them together to bring together deeper insights, whatever your industry may be. And so what I was able to do in unpacking this journey, by the time we got to Q1, the sense of momentum was evident. And as I've said to many people that I've worked with in the past, everything communicates. So it's not just a fancy diagram, it is to actually infuse in the organization a sense of momentum and progress. And it was also anchored in something that our company had said that we want to have more as a part of the way our teams and our people work, which is progress over perfection.
Right. And I know when we first started talking about that concept, you and I, Victor, around, progress over perfection, that's where we said, it truly is a journey, and ideas, breed new ideas. So
Exactly.
in keeping with that momentum, I know that you have, a few thoughts about 2020 and beyond. What's next for the McDonald's division?
Right. Yeah. So if you see in the upper right-hand corner, you see AI, artificial intelligence, and ML, machine learning, to uncover hidden value. So in January of this year, I attended a working session led by a Harvard fellow. This is a gentleman who writes business cases for the Harvard Business School. And he also founded the research firm Cantor Research. And he hosted an artificial intelligence and machine learning automation workshop. And he said one key thing that resonated so much with me, and that is, in order to get to the place where you have a more mature data environment, and for him, he said that dashboards, they're good to have, but they're generally descriptive of something that's already happened. Going up the maturity curve means you then get to predictive, which is what is going to happen. Going up the data maturity curve even further is prescriptive, which is, as he said, an example of Walmart. They are more prescriptive in their data analytics, what store to go into, what aisle, what category, what product placement should have more inventory during which day part. That's prescriptive analytics as opposed to looking at the past. So 2020 for us was looking back at the journey that we've covered so far and having a great foundational base of connecting our enterprise means we now actually can spring into the opportunity to begin to be more predictive. So if we want to bring in weather with in our forecasting, we can now do that because we can layer it onto the purpose-built volume forecasting tool that we built in Q1 2020. If we want to build in highway closures, if there's some particular highway closure and our customer has outlets up and down a highway, and that is going to be something, or festival and things of this nature, that's too much data for any human being to deal with effectively in an Excel world. But if you have a connected planning tool that goes all the way from the most minute detail, which is a product serving and an outlet, all the way through to the operating income for a market, and everything's connected in between, that's where we're going next. That's what we're working on this year, how we run the business. 2019 was more around how we plan the business.
And I'm sure for your team too, that working on that type of analysis is a bit more exciting than spending the time, consolidating spreadsheets
Absolutely.
and pulling different data sources. Obviously, you're a bit farther along in this journey and thinking already toward prescriptive. For some of the teams who might be on the line today, they may still be thinking, how do I get to that first milestone? How do
Right.
I consolidate our P&L, in real time over the course of, just one day instead of weeks? And for those folks, what advice or what takeaways would you give them to share the type of success that you've had?
Right. So if we go on to the next slide, this is where we'll maybe wrap up the conversation here and get to Q&A. And this is all around stewarding the journey. Um, Change definitely is difficult. No, I don't think anyone on this call would disagree with this. And what we really opened up was the art of the possible. And so, with regards to that, the first thing I want to focus on here is taking the lead, but bringing your partners with you. Absolutely important. I know there's probably not a person on this call that hasn't heard that, but you may recall when I began talking about the journey and that conversation with the BU president and a key finance lead from the largest part of our business, making sure that you're really grounded in what needs to be done. And then the second part around educating others and broadcasting the wider benefits. I've been on a continuing set of conversations with people within our IT organization who, understandably, some of them, for example, maybe only came to Coca-Cola 3 years ago and don't necessarily have that day-to-day experience dealing with the messy middle. And so their focus is around maybe ERP systems or consolidation systems, and not necessarily around the day-to-day work that finance people deal with in support of our functions. It's not just about finance. And then the last part is around continuing to evolve by building on your achievements such that you know that you're not building something that's a flavor of the day. There's probably not a person on this call that hasn't seen some fancy new tool get built, and there are people who watched it and thought, yeah, this too shall pass. It's just a flavor of the day exercise. So having that sense of the journey, bringing people along and making sure that it is about progress over perfection, you can actually steward the journey and continue. That's really going to be key for actually making impactful change.
And obviously, impactful change is possible given the story at the McDonald's division. So, thank you for sharing the journey and the lessons learned along the way, Victor.
Thank you.